Hello everyone, we're back in the second part of climate classification. So now we're going to talk about the temperate mesothermal type of climate. So where we can find them around the world. You can see most of South America, South United States. Also you can have in Europe and Asia. They classify by humid subtropical, hot summer, humid subtropical, winter dry, marine west coast, and Mediterranean. So let's see the characteristics of each one of them. So they are more affected by latitude, where the sun creates transitional. That means we have winter and summer, all four seasons also being characterized. So warm, cool, and all the systems like a high pressure, low pressure moving, and all then drive by the westerly winds. So these migration cyclones and anticyclones are responsible for rain and dry days. And also we have effects such as the ocean currents. So the first one, temperate, they call mild winters. So the subtropical hot summer climates, and we have marine west coast and Mediterranean type of climate. So the first one will be humid subtropical hot summer type of climate. If you look in your climograph, what you see is very interesting because you have a well-distributed precipitation. Temperature-wise, as you note here, no on average any month has temperature below the freezing point. So a good example here will be Columbia, South Carolina, where you have the annual temperature, average temperature will be 63, precipitation 49.8, and very beautiful vegetation as you can see in that area. So the second one will be marine west coast. So what characteristics you have the marine west coast? Well distributed precipitation, and because in the southern hemisphere you have the coldest month in July, not in January. So this beautiful vegetation, as you see, there's not much trees, and precipitation about 50 degrees, and temperature 50 degrees, and annual precipitation 31 inches. You see much less precipitation than the previous one. The third one is marine west coast type of climate, but look where you find it is marine west coast. Bluefield, West Virginia. So how we can explain we find marine west coast in the east coast of the United States? The only explanation you have is elevation. Look about that, 2,500 feet. So the altitude makes this region have a different type of climate. So if you look at the climograph, you can see in details you have a very well distributed precipitation, and still on average the temperature doesn't reach the freezing point. So that's one characteristic you have in that region. Mediterranean, my favorite one, dry summer. So what characteristics you have in the Mediterranean? Let's look in the climograph. You have the two cities here, the same characteristic. You have San Francisco and Sevilla in Spain. Look what happened, both in the northern hemisphere, but very, very dry in the winter. In summer, while it's very wet in the winter. And look what happened temperature-wise. The temperature range in this area, is about only 20 degrees Fahrenheit. That means the difference between summer and winter. The same thing here in Sevilla, where you have 28 degrees. Look at vegetation, very sparse trees, not much dense vegetation because no precipitation happened in the winter. So look where you can find those cities. The characteristic of San Francisco and Sevilla is a dry ocean or cold ocean currents moving by the gyre here, the same thing you have in Sevilla. So what effect of the ocean current, cold ocean current, makes the atmosphere very stable during summer because the water is relatively colder than land, so no evaporation, much less evaporation. What happens in winter? The ocean is relatively warmer, increase evaporation, then you expect what? You expect having precipitation. That's my favorite type of climate, Mediterranean dry summer climate. Continental cold Then you go a little further in some areas, as you notice that. Look, look at this map. What you don't see, think about it. Look at the pattern. Where you can find this type of climate, or where you cannot find this type of climate. Guess what? Where I come from, South America and South hemisphere doesn't have this type of climate. So what's the difference between Northern Hemisphere and Southern Hemisphere in terms of land? Yes, you're right. Northern Hemisphere has way more land. So this type of climate is characteristic of continental effect. So large mass of lands. And you can find where in North America and pretty much in Europe. So Russia. So characteristics, you have humid continental, hot summer, humid continental, mild summer. So we start getting colder, that's mean latitude. Then we go from subarctic cool summer to subarctic cold winter. Let's see more details about this type of climate. So increasing seasonality and great temperature range. That means the difference between summer and winter increase tremendous. Latitude becomes cool, moving northward. That means further north you go, cooler the temperature. So also very in the interior of the continent, you have this major impact in terms of temperature range. So another characteristic, you have humid continental, hot summer, humid continental, mild summer, and subarctic. We start the mildest one, will be the humid continental, hot summer. So the characteristic you have. Now, what you notice is, at least on average, we have 1 month where the temperature cross the threshold of 32 degrees Fahrenheit. And which city you talk about? New York. That's the main characteristic you have. New York also has something that, like in China, has similar characteristic. Both of them will be humid continental of hot summer. The next one is still in the same characteristic, but look at the signature. Even though it's a little farther, you can see this, the monsoon signature, where you have monsoon effect. So what characteristic you have? You see the high precipitation during summertime. Now the same thing, more continental, you see temperature on average below the freezing point, and you have a temperature range in this area about 52 degrees. So the next one, a little further north, the characteristic happen is more months start to crossing the threshold, as you notice here. Precipitation start to decrease. So where you can find this place? Moscow. Temperature range 52 degrees, and you see how much precipitation. Annual precipitation only 22.6 inches, and annual average temperature about 39. So start getting colder and colder and colder. So the next one, the subarctic cool summer cities. Look what happened in terms of temperature. Wow, now in reverse, you have a few months where the temperature is warmer than 32 degrees, but most of the year the temperature is below freezing point. And the precipitation also decreases. You see total annual precipitation only 17.4 inches, but the temperature range 72. It's getting very cold, as you can see here in this beautiful picture. More cold? Yes, extreme subarctic cold winter. Look what happened. Few months where the temperature is warmer than 32, but pretty much most of the year the temperature is very, very cold. So look at the temperature range in this area. That's the coldest, one of the coldest region in the world, and the highest temperature range in the world. Very continental area. Temperature range 113 degrees Fahrenheit. But it's still very pleasant in the summer. But look what happened here. The temperature get below negative 40s on average. So if you remember, the mercury freeze at negative 39, so you cannot use a mercury thermometer in this region because you will not survive the winter. And finally, we'll talk about the polar area, where you have the polar and alpine. So alpine means mountains. Why? Because higher you go in the atmosphere, temperature decrease. So even though you might have regions in the tropical area, but behave as a polar because have a lot of lower temperature. So where you can find in areas like this one. So the characteristic, you have very low sun altitude, especially in summer, extreme daylight between winter and summer, so you have 6 months of day, 6 months of night, extremely low humidity, very, very dry in these regions, and high albedo, so high light surface reflect more solar radiation. So they're defined in tundra, ice cap, and polar marine climate. Higher you go, look at this example here. You can see how the climate change when you go higher because temperature decrease. So you can go from almost a tropical area on the bottom of this mountain to a polar on the top. So you decide. This is very interesting type of climate. How they change snow, subalpine, mountain, foothill. You have a very low, also almost Mediterranean type of climate when the alpine type. Tundra, what characteristic you have? Very low vegetation, as you can see here, but one then most of the year is the temperature is below freezing point, but it's at least 1 month the temperature is greater than 0, 32 degrees Fahrenheit, but less than 10. So the characteristic in most of the northern hemisphere, the exception in the southern hemisphere is high altitude, or that means mountains. That's where we can find tundra. So another characteristic about tundra is most of the soil is frozen. They call it permafrost. The ice cap and ice sheet climate. So you can have in the Antarctic and Greenland. So the characteristic is much ice where the temperature always very rare. You have temperature above 0 degrees. Very little precipitation. Very, very dry. So that's what you have for this chapter. Hope you have enjoyed.